I remember getting like a letter in the mail. I was actually living in Georgia at the time, but I remember getting a letter in the mail saying, we have this burden to plant a church. And I was like, yes, that's awesome. I bet that's going to be an awesome church. And I was in Georgia, but I remember coming down for like one of their first meetings that was technically Heart of the Father, but it was their meeting in their home on Edgewood. And we set up chairs in there, and it was just a really very raw, unplanned, but powerful time. It was just very real and not structured in a good way. It was just, you could feel the hunger and just the authenticity. And so, I remember being there that night, and it was really neat. And then, of course, they moved on to get buildings and things like that. So, yeah.
I remember the original days of Heart of the Father when it was more of a college ministry, and I went to school with Jeremiah. So we had just heard about the Lord was doing something. A lot of young people were gathering, and it was on a Thursday night. So I knew that even if I committed to serving at my other church, I could still come as a young adult on this Thursday night. And I remember walking into it, and it was super loud, and we're crammed, and there were all these young people sweating, and the music was, we were just hungry for the Lord. The music was pretty loud, and they had free pizza, so that's going to get young people there. But honestly, none of that stuff really mattered, because we just felt the Lord's presence really strong, and we knew the Lord was doing something big. And at that point, I was like, wow, okay, I wonder what this is going to grow into.
So when Heart of the Father met at the Ballroom, I remember, getting there early to help set up the chairs and then staying late and tearing down. But that was probably the most awkward place we met at, because you're worshiping and the room is covered in mirrors, and so you could see yourself worshiping and see other people worshiping, and sometimes you make eye contact with someone else through the mirror. So it's pretty awkward worship experience, even though the Lord was there. It was powerful. I remember even the worship leader, which wasn't Allison at the time. I won't say the person's name because I don't want to call him out, but they would show up like 5 minutes before the service and be putting in the words on the screen like 5 minutes before the service starts. But nonetheless, the Lord was there. It was powerful, and we loved it. It was definitely some powerful meetings there. I remember Barry preached a message one time on the grace of giving, and it totally.
Some of my fond memories are of the Pipkin building. I remember we were there, we moved into that building, and it was summertime, and at that point Heart of the Father was really tiny, and it was mostly made up of college students, and so all of the college students were gone during the summer, and there were just a couple of us left. It was our family, the Johnsons, Chuck and Marie Jenkins, and I think the DeSmits, and I think that was it. And so I remember one Sunday we had no worship leader, so my dad led worship. I played the piano, my brother played the drums. It was like Nichols family worship. But I'm glad that we moved past those days, but it's fond memories still. I think that's when we had our first kid in the nursery was in that building, and I was the first child care worker. I remember that. That was interesting. I do remember, though, that there were some really sweet moments at that building. I remember one time we were in the sanctuary, and I don't even remember what happened, but I just remember bawling my eyes out, and the presence of God being so strong in that moment. And I remember I could not get myself off the floor. It was so intense, and when I did, it was it felt like reality was all weird, just because I had been so intense with the Lord. It was such a sweet moment. So there were a lot of times like that, just worshiping and praying and for hours and hours, and people just didn't want to leave. And that was a really sweet time at that building with that community. So that was special.
Okay, so probably the most intense place that we met at was at the top of the Swan Hotel. It's where, if you guys don't know where that's at, on South Florida, it was right next to where the Krispy Kreme shut down. We would be there really early in the morning and have to set up and tear down every time. Sometimes we'd come in and there'd be leftover alcohol smell and a dance floor with confetti. And I remember one specific instance where we were coming in to get our equipment, and I'm probably 7 a.m. or 6:30, so just FYI if you think it's bad how early we get here sometimes. It could be worse. And we walk in and there's this runway set up, and they were having literally, I think the next day, like a big girls pageant. And it's just, you just never knew what you were getting into when you walked into the Swan. But that was a hard one for me. There were some beautiful moments. A beautiful moment that I remember is that you could overlook all of Lakeland because there was a glass, all the windows surrounded the top up there, and you could look out and just see the city of Lakeland. And I remember praying over the city and even singing that song, God of the City. And it was really impactful because you feel like you could really see it and commit to pray for the city with that in your view. It was powerful.
Okay, so ironically, was co-leading worship with Lisa Bates across the street, and our church closed, and the lady in the back of the church that everybody has that's always praying said, I'm going to go across the street at Jeremiah Johnson's church. So we go there, we're both super burnt out, tired, just waiting to see what God has in store for us. And we go into the service, and from the first note that was played, I'll never forget, walk in there, and we both hit the floor, bawling our eyes out, and it was like that for like a month straight, just getting restored and everything. So we ended up taking pretty much our entire church and all migrating to Heart of the Father, which was right across the street. I remember this moment where, actually it happened a lot, where somebody be preaching and they're like super serious. We're all like, yes, amen, fire of God and all that stuff. And then somebody would make a point, and then in the background you just hear because the dance studio was on the other side of the stage where somebody was preaching, and so it'd get real funny and everything. But
yeah, so when we moved into the current building, I was still in college, but it was during the summer when we actually moved into this building. So I was home on break, and that summer I was like helping Jeremiah with like random things. And so I remember helping him move like into this building. We moved out of the old office at the Staples building, and I remember specifically moving his huge fish tank into his office. I mean, I physically didn't move it, but like it was a massive fish tank. And I remember moving it in there, like helping him set up like all of his fish stuff and like all of his office and all of his books. And anyway, so that's like my first memory of this building, was moving into the offices. And then I left for college again, finished up there, and then I came back in 2018. And so since then, I have loved being here and being in this building. It's been so sweet. I mean, I knew that the Lord wanted me to come back to Florida because of Heart of the Father specifically, which is really, that's very significant to me. Like, I knew that God wanted me here.
Well, in 2019, I met a pregnant woman that was homeless and had 4 other children. And the day after I met her, my daughter-in-law and I went and took her dinner. We just wanted to get to know her, to hear her story, to hear her needs. And when we actually took the meal to her mother's house, where she was staying at the time, and when we left, we were so sad and so depressed because her needs were so great. The next Sunday she came to church, and not only did the elders pray for her, but they took a collection for her after they took the regular offering. And it was so significant that it really met her a great need for her, not only for apartment, furniture, and people in the church just began to give. So even though we're not a really big church, we are a very, very generous church.
And something else that happened, I'm not sure if you even know, is that Amy, your sister, made a shirt for her that said "Chosen" on it for her baby, for a baby shower, and she liked it so much she named the child Chosen.
So yeah, I think that uniquely the churches I grew up in a Southern Baptist church in Georgia. So you'd have a 9 a.m. service for the older people and a 10 a.m. for the younger people. And I love how Heart of the Father, truly you can walk in and talk to anybody of any age range. And very quickly, I feel like we made friends and companions with people in their 60s and above before we did and people our own age range. And so it was really cool to have community from the A to Z of the age spectrum. And there's kids that are younger that you can disciple, there's people your age, people older, grandparents of the faith. So I think that's something very unique that we've loved about the community here.
Yeah, just like the family aspect of the church. Like it feels like you could go in and talk to, there's so many people that are so wise at the church, and there's just I love how like each person gets to like play their part. I think that's a big part of the church that I really liked as well, and what drew me in is the fact that, I think because of that, there are so many people who are so wise, and you could go to like, not just like the elders or the deacons of the church, but there's so much to like, wisdom and like spiritual maturity that you can gather from like all different ages. But like the age, it feels like family. Like I think that's like the biggest thing that we love about it is like the community really does feel like family, because there's different ages and it's really awesome. So that's, that's what we love about the church.
So I think one of the most impactful actually happened in home group. So when we first started coming, before we were even members in that time.
It was Brandon and Allison's home group.
We were at Brandon and Allison's home group. And so we were talking about like loving one another, and you have to like know each other and share. And I like opened up about really personal stuff. And it was the first time to talk about some of that stuff. So it was just like a really like welcoming environment, and just the people there. And so sometimes, we're not doing home group anymore, and I don't like hang out with everybody from the home group, but we still see each other, and like they know this stuff. We know this stuff about each other now because of that time that we had together there.
Yeah, it's really nice to see a very honest community, very transparent.
Very transparent.
A lot of people are big on having like an image about something, but everyone is very open about who they are, what they do, and what they're going through.
Me. No, sorry. I'm sorry. Ask the question again. I absolutely love the worship atmosphere here and the prayer atmosphere. It is, it resonates with me. And as a sound guy, I really love the worship. I really like running sound for this lady right here. I was just telling Carissa was back there, and I said, I like running sound for her. It's just, it's such a joy. It really is. There's, no bickering or anything like that. It's just, it's an honor to be here.
All right, let's talk.
Let's go.
I'm gonna ask you a couple questions here.
All right.
So we're talking about Heart of the Father.
Okay.
How long have you been here?
Wow. That's a wild story. I actually came here to kind of just sit in the prayer room, like probably years before I actually came to this church. And because I was in between, I was in a season of transition, and I just felt like there was more. And my heart was kind of drawn to like the whole IHOP KC vibe and atmosphere of just pursuing the heart of the Lord in intimacy. So I would come by even when I was attending a different church, and I would like, man, this is awesome, but I don't have the release to come here yet. And then I would always hit up Jeremiah with my random questions, like, about the prophetic and stuff. And then one day he was like, I had left my church, and I was trying to pay my tithe because I know I still needed a tithe. And I was trying to pay it through his ministry. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to take your tithe through my ministry. You keep paying tithe through my ministry. You need to come to church and be a part of family and heal. And I'm like, how do you know I need to heal? And so that was intriguing. That kind of gripped me. And so I came here, and between Maranatha, we would hop campuses back and forth. But it was just something about this particular campus that kind of just blew me away. Because it wasn't like people were just it wasn't about focusing on your giftings. It was people were more concerned with your soul. And that was like a rarity that I had never really seen before, you know, doing music or, you know, walking in the prophetic gifting or whatever. A lot of people just like to prostitute you for your gifting and they don't care less about your soul. But when I started being around people like Barry, that I even have lunch with like on a regular basis, he don't care about all that. He cares about scripture. He cares about your soul. He cares about your character. And so it was a different thing altogether. Yeah.
All right, I got one last thing for you. You got any freestyles or verses in your heart? You can just give us a couple bars.
Oh man, here he goes with this.
What you got in you?
Like treasure hidden in fields, you're worth more than a diamond. I'll sell every possession, all that I own to buy it. I feel like I'm flying, floating above the clouds. I'm caught up in its glory. Like when the trumpet sounds, my heart begins to pound. Like Donkey Kong beating drums. I'm face down on the ground looking dead like I am John. Hey, Jesus is my reward. He's my master, my shepherd, and my Lord. Jesus is king, so every knee will bow down at his feet. 24 elders casting crowns. He is holy. He's the way, the truth, the life. He resurrected from death. He brings dead things to life. He brought me back to life.
Let's go. I love you.